Welcome to the Explainer. So, if you've been scrolling through the news lately, you've probably noticed a ton of noise. But if you look past all the political arguments and the online shouting, something incredible is happening. A totally fascinating blueprint has been quietly mapped out. Just over the last few days, through this series of honestly seemingly random social media posts and replies, Elon Musk laid out a massive unified roadmap. And this roadmap, it connects SpaceX, XAI, and Tesla into one giant cohesive endgame. We are not just looking at three separate companies doing their own thing anymore. No, we're looking at a master architecture for the absolute future of the internet, computing, and physical machines. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this, because the entire vision really kicks off with a recent and kind of shocking forecast from Cloudflare. They bluntly stated that human beings are going to become a mere rounding error on the internet. A rounding error. Now, when Musk quote posted this, he completely agreed. He actually noted that it isn't even going to be a close call. So he's talking about this absolutely staggering ratio, 1,000 to 1. Within just 5 years, the expectation is that AI bot traffic will outnumber human internet traffic by a factor of 1,000. I know, right? It sounds like straight-up science fiction, but the math is actually surprisingly straightforward. Think about it. A human scrolling on a phone uses a tiny, tiny trickle of bandwidth. We have to, stop, eat, sleep. But AI agents, they are pulling massive documents, streaming high-def video, communicating with a swarm of other agents, and working 24/7 without ever needing an app. You really don't need a wild imagination to hit that 1,000 to 1 mark. You just need agents that are actually doing real work. So, to wrap our heads around how this massive shift is going to be engineered, we're going to break this explainer down into 5 parts. First, the machine internet. Second, powering the network. Third, building the machines. Fourth, the Starship bottleneck. And finally, part 5, a grounded reality check. All right, part 1, the machine internet. This is the foundational layer of the whole thing. To really grasp this, we've got to define what we mean by agentic AI. Agentic basically just means AI that goes off and does things entirely on its own. We're talking about software that is out there actively booking, buying, driving, and coordinating stuff for you. In this master plan, XAI's Grok is the brain. It's meant to do the thinking. We've actually already seen Grok's image generation jump to number 2 on the global leaderboards, and Grok 4.5 is topping design arenas. This intelligence is the roaring engine of the machine internet. And here's the kicker. It demands an insanely fast, non-stop stream of bandwidth that our current human-focused infrastructure was just never built to handle. Which brings us right to part 2, powering the network. How do we actually connect all these machines? Let's move to and see how this builds. Because if the internet is suddenly flooded by all these AI agents needing heavy, nonstop bandwidth, well, somebody has to supply that connection. And this brings us to an absolutely massive claim Musk casually dropped in a weekend reply. He literally stated, it's possible that Starlink may end up doing over 90% of IP traffic. Over 90%? Now, obviously notice the hedging words there, right? Possible and may. But guys, even if this is only half right, think about the legacy telecom companies for a second. The cell carriers, the people who have spent decades digging trenches and hanging wires everywhere. In this blueprint, they're left fighting over a shrinking little slice of the pie, while one single company satellite network handles the vast majority of the entire world's data. But to actually pull that off, SpaceX can't just rely on the 10,000 or so Starlink satellites they have up there today. When pressed on the ultimate size of this constellation, Musk confirmed the goal is to exceed 100,000 satellites. 100,000! But it's not just about multiplying the fleet by 10. It's about the crazy capability of the new hardware. The future V3 satellites are expected to carry 50 times the throughput of a current V2. So you multiply 10 times the fleet by 50 times the throughput, and boom, you get a network capable of handling that staggering 1,000 to 1 machine traffic ratio we talked about earlier. Moving on to part 3, building the machines. This is where Tesla's physical role comes in. So the crucial point is, who builds the physical vessels that will actually use this massive network? Well, consider the contrast here. A traditional car, it's a depreciating asset. It just sits in your driveway losing value. But the newly showcased gold Tesla Cybercab with the Starlink dish integrated right into it is a completely different beast. This isn't just a car, it's a rolling, revenue-generating internet customer. Musk noted that passengers will be able to watch live sports in crisp 4K, stream movies, or take work calls while riding. From a pure business perspective, this means you have a vehicle paying a monthly Starlink internet bill forever, and it literally never calls customer service to cancel its plan. The passenger in the back seat paying for the ride and the digital content, that's just gravy. It's extra money on top. And Tesla is in a totally unique position to actually execute this. First off, they just ranked #1 in automotive loyalty, actually beating out legacy badges and even Ferrari. That captive loyal audience is exactly who they'll sell these subscriptions and rides to next. Second, full self-driving is hitting crazy milestones right now. For example, community member David Moss just crossed 25,000 consecutive hands-off miles. That is literally a lap around the entire Earth without touching the steering wheel. But the real magic here is keeping the revenue in the family. Every single new Tesla that comes online as a paying Starlink connection means the money stays completely within the Musk ecosystem, bypassing traditional telecom giants like AT&T or Verizon entirely. But cars are just the first wave. Musk recently reposted a mission statement for the Optimus robot reading, "Our mission is to build a world of amazing abundance." The whole framework here is that physical work can scale almost without limit. Think about it. Every business today is naturally capped by how many human beings they can hire and train. A robot completely removes that ceiling. This is exactly why around 25% of the massive terafab chips facility's output is penciled in specifically for Optimus. So put it all together. The robot does the physical work, Grok does the thinking, Starlink connects everything, and Tesla builds and sells it. The whole shebang. Which leads us to part 4, the Starship bottleneck. Let's talk about the physical hurdle. Because to get to this utopian world of abundance, there's a very real, physical hurdle holding this entire interconnected sci-fi vision back on the launch pad. Remember those V3 Starlink satellites we just talked about? The ones that provide 50 times the throughput? Well, they are a completely different animal. They are much, much bigger, and honestly far too heavy for their current workhorse, the Falcon 9 rocket, to carry into orbit. The only vehicle on the planet capable of deploying this massive next-generation constellation is Starship. It's simple. If Starship doesn't fly regularly, that 100,000 satellite dream and all the bandwidth needed to support those AI agents goes absolutely nowhere. And this is exactly why recent public FCC filings for Starship Flight 14 are absolutely critical. The paperwork lays out the boldest flight they have ever attempted. The goals are to launch, deploy the first operational V3 satellites, and then, crucially, catch the booster returning to the launch site, while also attempting to catch the ship itself with a tower. Catching this hardware is literally the entire ballgame. If you're throwing away a massive rocket every single time you launch these heavy satellites, the economic math never ever closes. Starship has to become a fully reusable delivery truck for this master blueprint to actually function. Finally, part 5, the reality check. Time for some grounded truths. Because while this whole vision is incredibly compelling, we really need to separate the endgame talk from what is actually happening on the ground right now. And this brilliantly illustrates the gap between these massive claims and the grounded realities. Take that claim about handling 90% of IP traffic. It's highly plausible at the edges, right? Like on ships, in aviation, remote areas, and moving vehicles. But it's a huge stretch at the core, where cheap fiber optics absolutely dominate data centers and cities. What about the 100,000 satellites? Well, currently, the regulatory approvals cover only a fraction of that, and current FCC rules don't even have a framework for a constellation that massive. And that 1,000 times AI growth forecast, that relies on exponential math, which is notoriously tricky and can easily miss the timing by years. So as a focused learner or an investor, you really need a scorecard of tangible deliverables to monitor. Here is your watch list to cut through the hype. Number 1. The success of Starship Flight 14, which is expected roughly 2 to 3 weeks out based on those filings. Number 2, the release of Grok 4.6 with its 1.5 trillion parameters, a release that actually already missed its August 7th target date. Number 3, keep an eye on whether Starlink hardware actually scales across the entire Cybercab fleet in production, rather than just being a one-off on a fancy gold showcase car. And finally, real-world scaling, like Lufthansa boarding passengers on Starlink-equipped A320neos starting August 19th. Tracking these dates is what protects you from the noise. You gotta grade these companies on what is actually signed and shipped. So the blueprint is totally clear. xAI does the thinking, SpaceX runs the network, and Tesla builds the physical machines. But grand visions always face the friction of reality. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Looking at this entire master architecture, which claim do you buy the least? Is it the idea that Starlink will somehow capture 90% of global IP traffic? The logistical mountain of launching 100,000 satellites? Or the vision that every single car on the road will be constantly connected and generating revenue? Think about it, keep your eyes closely on that watch list, and we'll see you in the next explainer.